Hello, everybody. Good morning. Coming to you from Spartanburg, South Carolina, and we have a fairly clear sky morning, a hot one. Temperatures are going to be in the upper 80s, low 90s today, and the humidity is outrageous. But that's living in the southeast, kind of par for the course as we enter summer. But I am imaging the sun. I already have everything set up and decided I'd go ahead and share my screen only because there are two pretty prominent sunspots that are pretty active. And this morning I plan to start a time lapse and put about 2, maybe 3 hours into the time lapse to see if I can capture any uh, healthy looking swirls that are flares that are surrounding the spots. We'll definitely find out. I'll be using the telescope on the bottom for the most part. This is a Solar Scout, and currently I don't have this camera on it. That's a 183 one-shot color by ASI, and I'm sorry, yeah, 183. And then what I have on it is the 120 mono Pro, the new version, and then this is the 174 ASI 174 mono camera, and between on the bottom scope, the camera is the 174, and connected to the camera is the Quark chromosphere by Daystar. And then that attaches to the Moonlight focuser, and the Moonlight focuser is then connected to the Astrotech 65 EDQ. And then riding on top is the Solar Scout, and it is a solar telescope. I may image with that later, but it's about all I can do to get one up and running. This is a real old picture that I keep bringing up and using. It is on an AVX, Celestron AVX mount, but this power system using these power strips and a converter, I replaced that a year or so ago with the Pegasus Ultimate Power Boxes. I have sitting right next to this are two piers that are permanent, and there are permanent kits that are on those two piers, and they also have the Pegasus Ultimate Power Box version 2. They're just awesome. You can connect your power and your data, and you can control it from remotely, which I really like that. So let me go to my screen. Let me shut off some things you can't see, but I can. And I don't need that anymore. I don't need that anymore. I don't need this anymore, nor do I need this anymore. So let's go on over to my screen, and let's see what is going on. These are the two spots. Don't know if they've been given a name yet. I know they have been. I just don't know what it is. But there is some activity swirling around these two spots. And what I plan to do is take a series of images, actually videos, one right after the other, right after the other, right after the other. I'm going to take about 1,000 frame picture, video. I'm going to raise the gain slightly. I'm going to lower the exposure time so that I can get a frame rate of about 81. I'm down here on the far left. I'd like a frame rate of 60 frames per second or better. So I'm at 88. I'm watching my histogram down here too. I'm going to have some clipping on the dark side, just because of the nature of the solar scope quark chromosphere. Now, Daystar makes the quark chromosphere, and it can attach to most any refractor. Some won't work, but this is also want to make sure we don't clip on the highlights. So we can, if I actually move the gain up, you can see I'm clipping the highlights. If I move it down, I'm clipping everything. So I'm going to keep that around. I always keep this under 100 if I can, just because of the grain that'll appear in your video if you raise it too high. Now there is one exception. If I'm going to look for flares on the surface, the rim of the sun, then I'm going to raise my gain to about 200, and I'll raise my exposure, and you can see starting to appear down at the bottom some faint flares coming off of the surface. I usually don't even try to image those. I'll go around the rim and see if there's any really pronounced, bright, contrasty flares, and I'll sometimes I'll image those in time lapse just to show the looping effect and the explosions that are taking place on the rim surface are pretty exciting to watch. It is for me. Okay. Let's bring the gain back down to around 80, and actually we'll just leave it at, now I'm at 52 frames per second, and I'm at 77 frames per second. I'm going to raise the gain up slightly. I kind of like to see my histogram going to almost to the probably the 3/4 mark on your luminosity scale. You can also look at the histogram by activating this icon up here, and it does show where my histogram is. This is the sun, and this is part of the sun. These are the darker areas of the sun, the spots in these areas here. So what I want to do is get rid of this. I played around with the focus before I came online. I am planning on moving the sun some, because as I image this, I want to see the difference. I want to see the surface of the sun, the whole surface of the sun surrounding these spots. Now you can see that there are some peculiar looking shadows that look like they're on the sun. They're not. These are dust spots that have collected on either the camera sensor, the quark chromosphere. I doubt it's on the refractor. It's just too far away from the sensor. But somewhere, unless they were just really radical spots that blocked light, but somewhere in the optical train from the chromosphere back to the sensor, these spots are showing up, and there's more. I can make them appear, but rather than clean your optical train periodically, which can do damage to the glass if you're not careful, scratching and such, I just leave them. And what I will be doing in a few minutes is I will be taking a flat frame, and that flat frame will be a defocused picture of the sun, and that defocused picture is only going to show one thing, the spots that are on this mess. And then I'll focus it back, and I'll start imaging the spots. And when I start processing, I'll process the defocused images in one stack, and I'll process the rest of the sunspot images, and I'll subtract one from the other, removing these spots. So it's a trick in astronomy where you just don't have the need to clean your gear as frequently as one might think, because you can take supporting files like flats and remove the dust. You can take bias frames, which are different supporting files, to remove the sensor's electronic signature, which is the electron effect on the sensor that shows little specks and grain in some cases. And then you can take long exposure dark frames, and those are only needed if you are imaging at night deep space and you're taking long exposure images, because the sensor has thermal noise that accumulates during the course of an image. That's a result really of it being on and exposed to photons, and so the photons will give signal to your image, but so will the noise. And so you take the dark frames and subtract those from your images in order to remove that noise. There's other tricks, as in dithering, that helps to isolate and pinpoint where the mess is, that also can be subtracted during the taking of your light frames. Light frames are the same thing as your image frames. So let's go ahead, let's move the sun down just a tad. I want to show some of the all the surface, but I don't want too much of the dark area. And let's go ahead and knock off, we're going to call this sunspot, and it will create a folder inside. I'm using an external hard drive, because if I take a time lapse that's going to go over 2 hours, I will be saving so many large file video files that I would fill up my hard drive. So I've got an external portable hard drive outside connected to my kit, and it's called the E drive, and I've already set up for today that hard drive to be the recipient of these pictures. There's a lot of ways to capture the images. You can go to capture, and you can hit start capture, and you'll be given options. This is what I'll use when I start the time lapse. I will click the number of frames. I'll select 1,000, and then I'll perform a sequence of captures that may last 2 hours. And I will also have a pause between each video file so that buffering on this external hard drive can complete. Probably 5 minutes per each picture, and then I'll take another one, and then I'll take another one, and then I'll take another one. So that's one way, and that's the way you do it. Do an automatic long-term imaging. Now, there is a rub here. I have not polar lined this scope in a long time, although it stays out permanently with a 360 telegizmo covering it. I still don't polar line it often enough, and as a result, I will have some drift and declination, and that's pretty much expected. I have bumped the scope, I have moved the scope. It's close, but it is not going to stay pixel on pixel throughout a 2-hour imaging session. So what I've done is I've activated an ASCOM driver. I actually start the Carte de Sil. You know I'm butchering that. I'm not a French-speaking person, but this is a planetarium software program, and I just connect the ASCOM driver for my Celestron AVX, and that is the I need to sync this to the sun, so might as well do that now. So I'm going to go to telescope, and I'm going to go sync. Nope, it's not on. Nope, we're not going to do that because it thinks it's on. Okay, and we're going to go telescope, and we're going to go sync, and it says confirm that the telescope is pointed at the sun. We're going to go yes. So it realigns the software to the sun, and at this exact, let me find ShartCap here. At this exact position, and so if I should bump the scope, well, bumping it won't help me. I'll have to restart. But if I should walk away from this and come back and it's shifted, then I can just click on the sun again and slew right back to this exact place. So it helps me to find my exact place, and that'll be important over a large imaging session. Now, the stacking procedure that I'm going to use is auto staggered, and as long as you're close, it doesn't have to be pixel on pixel, which is the case with still pictures taken one right after the other in deep space imaging at night. But it does need to be reasonably close. So what I'll do is I'll activate a, let's see, I don't want focus assistant. I want crosshairs, and I'm just going to go ahead and take these crosshairs and move them to the center of this. I'll leave those crosshairs alone, and what's going to happen is this my sun starts to drift away from the crosshairs. I'll know which I'll move the scope, nudge it back so that it's centered, and I'll do that about every 20-30 minutes. It won't drift that much, although it looks like it already is starting to drift that much. When you take your images, the crosshairs will not be in it. So what I'm going to do now, there's another way to start capture. You can click on this, and that also brings up the same dialog box that I brought up here. But another quicker way is to go up to pull down box, and you can select, I'm having a hard time talking, 100, 200, 500, 1000. So right now what I'm going to do is take 1000 frames, and I can tell that it's capturing it in the bottom left. I'm at 500, 600, 700, 800. Now keep in mind, this is an AVI file. It's a video, and but I've already taken over 1000 frames. It has already buffered. I only had to drop 2 frames during this, and so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to knock off another 1000 frames. I'm just going to click quick capture, and it's starting again. Now, one of the reasons, well, there's several reasons why I'm going to be taking 8 or 9 or 10 AVI files. Although the sun looks like it's in a cloudless sky, between here and the sun, there's stuff. And that stuff creates what's called your scene conditions. Scene conditions vary. As a matter of fact, as you watch this, it looks like it's in focus at times, and it looks like it's out of focus. Well, the focuser isn't moving, but what is changing, you do have scene conditions that are changing. So also I've got the drift I'm going to have to deal with. Now, what I don't know, because I haven't played around with it, is the orientation. I don't know if west is going to move it back. Nope, west moves it down, so east must move it up, and it does. So east is up and west is down. All right, what's going to be, move it to, if I hit south, will I move? Nope, I got to hit north to move it back towards center. So here we go. Now I'm only moving it 4 times sidereal right here, so I'm not moving that quick. So the drift is going to happen in deck. There'll be some RA too, but most of my drift is going to be in deck, which is north and south. So let's go back and capture another. So north and south are going to be my key directional correction tabs. I will have some east and west RA drift just because of the imperfection in the mechanics of any mount that I can afford. And okay, oh, wrong way. It'll almost take me a while before I get this mastered. I better do it before I start the time lapse. Okay, and we're going to click off another. Now, I did mention to you that I have another telescope that's set up outside. As soon as this is finished, I'm going to go ahead and shut this camera off and activate the ASI 120. Alrighty, I've got this too bright, so I'm going to bring the light down and bring the each of these cameras has a little bit different and they're oriented different. West may move the camera another direction, and it does. But I have to go find these spots. So let's see where they are, because this camera isn't in the exact same orientation as the other camera is. I could do it, I just haven't. Well, come on, North, let's start working. Oh, shoot. Pardon my losing it here. There's a lot of dust motes on this. Now, I don't have electronic, there we go. I don't have electronic focuser. Let's see, let's go. All right. I already got the sunspot thing done here. Let's go east a little more. And incidentally, I don't want to move those crosshairs because I want to come back and reposition the sunspots at those crosshairs. And let's knock off 1,000 here. Now, the frame rate of this camera is only 28, and it's because of the USB cable that I'm currently using. So I'm knocking off 1,000 frames at a much slower rate, so it's going to take a lot longer to do this. This is a dust mote, dust. They're everywhere. we're getting close to the end. We're at 900 frames, and we've completed the 1,000. We had none dropped. So you'll get a chance after I process this image and put it up on my channel. Well, this is also going to be on the YouTube channel, but I'm going to put this on my website, Night Sky Imager. That's all one word, nightskyimager.com. And I'll also put how I process these images. I'll put that video up as well, probably sometime later today. All right, I'm going to go back to the 174. And we've really moved the sun way out of... Okay, I forgot what was what. I think west is down. And south, oh, no. Okay, yeah, it keeps going. Got carried away. Alrighty, I'm going to click off another. Quick capture. Right now, it really doesn't look like it's in focus. And again, that's back to scene. And I didn't change anything on the focusing system. I also want to point out that when you look at the Solar Scout, which is on top, it does not have an electronic focuser. That's the one on top. Again, you have the camera that's attached to something that looks like the quark chromosphere, but Daystar tells me it's not a chromosphere. It's just another HA alpha filtering system to image the sun with. But this is the one on the bottom is the one we're using now, and that camera is connected to the quark chromosphere. You purchase it separately, add it to your optical train, and then this green thingy is an electronic focuser, and I can control the in and out of this system. Well, I didn't need that. I can control the in and out of the system, or the focusing, by activating. Let me bring back my okay, I brought up the Moonlight focuser, which is how I focus. And I'm going to try, say, moving out 10 steps. And see if that improves it. It might have improved a little bit. I'm going to move out another 10 steps. Well, I may not have been in focus because that looks like it went in and out of focus. So let's go back, say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to leave it right there. Let's capture one. We're going to capture another 1,000 frames. And once that is done, and it is done right now, I'm going to say sayonara for now. If you got anything at all out of this diatribe of mine while imaging the sun, consider clicking on the like button and subscribe to it. I image every clear sky night that I have, and I'm retired and can do so. And I image the sun quite often. I just don't always put these on my YouTube or on Facebook. But I intend to add as much content as I can. And for one reason, I doubt very seriously that this is ever going to be a money-making website, but I learned so much from the Dylan O'Donnells and the Chuck Ihoobs and the Trevor's Jones from Astro Backyard, and there's just so many. Adam, gosh, I can't think of his last name, and I subscribe to his channel. Hang on a minute. I got to make sure I give this man credit. How can I forget him? As a matter of fact, this is Adam Block. Gosh, how could I forget that? I should remember just this. My mother used to call me a blockhead from time to time, and so that I forget things. By the way, I can't say enough about Adam Block's training when it comes to PixInsight, and he's brilliant, and he explains it in a way that even I can understand it. So I highly recommend that if you're fascinated by post-processing strategies and trips and you're using PixInsight, that's the go-to place. So anyway, with that being said, I'm going to say goodbye, and I hope you guys have clear skies your way. And again, consider subscribing and liking my channel. Thank you.